Gunshots erupted across Pearl Harbor Naval Station as Private First Class Jessica Thompson slammed the emergency lockdown button. The gate's steel barriers crashed down while sirens wailed through the humid Hawaiian air. 3 vehicles trapped between checkpoints, engines revving, drivers screaming as armed guards surrounded them. Jessica's hands moved without hesitation, radio crackling orders, computer screens flashing red alerts, her father's dog tags burning against her chest as she coordinated the response. 22 years old, 6 months at Pearl Harbor, and suddenly the Pacific Fleet's most critical entrance depended entirely on her split-second decisions. Senior officers sprinted toward the chaos, their weathered faces twisted with doubt. A private commanding their lockdown protocols? Impossible. They'd never seen someone so young handle code red with surgical precision, every movement calculated, every order crisp as gunfire. The shooting stopped, suspects neutralized, all clear echoing through speakers. But the real test was just beginning. Admiral Morrison's black sedan approached the reopened gate, his steely eyes locked on the young woman who'd just saved lives without breaking protocol. What he did next would shock the entire base. Before we continue, if you believe respect should be earned through action, not rank, type respect below. And tell me where you're watching from. This story hits different when I know who's standing with Jessica. I read every comment. The crisis passed, but Jessica's real battle was only beginning. Word spread through Pearl Harbor like wildfire. A private had coordinated the lockdown that saved dozens of lives. Senior staff gathered in hushed circles, their conversations sharp with disbelief. "She's just a kid," muttered Master Chief Rodriguez, 25 years of service etched into his weathered face. "No business running security protocols." Captain Stevens nodded grimly. Morrison should have taken control immediately. Instead, he let a private call the shots. But Jessica had done more than call shots. She'd made the right ones. Every decision during those terrifying minutes had been textbook perfect. Lockdown timing, personnel positioning, threat assessment. Not one mistake, not one hesitation. Still, the whispers followed her everywhere. In the mess hall, conversations stopped when she passed. Veteran sailors studied her with calculating eyes, searching for cracks in her composure. Some watched with grudging respect, others with barely concealed resentment. Jessica felt their stares like physical weight. She'd never wanted attention, never sought spotlight. All she'd ever wanted was to serve with the same quiet dignity her father had taught her. But now, whether she liked it or not, every move she made was scrutinized. Her roommate, Seaman Martinez, tried to lighten the mood. "You're famous now, Thompson. The private who saved Pearl Harbor." Jessica shook her head, unlacing her boots with deliberate precision. "I did my job. Nothing more." "Your job was checking IDs," Martinez laughed, "not coordinating base-wide lockdowns." But that was exactly the point. Jessica had never seen her duties as separate from the larger mission. The gate wasn't just a checkpoint. It was the first line of defense for the Pacific Fleet's most vital assets. Every vehicle that passed her position carried the potential for catastrophe if she made the wrong call. 3 days later, Admiral Morrison summoned her. Jessica stood at attention in his office, spine straight, eyes forward, her father's dog tags a hidden weight against her heart. The Admiral studied her in silence, his expression unreadable. "Private Thompson," he said finally, "tell me about your training." "Standard boot camp, sir. Security specialization. 6 months gate duty here at Pearl Harbor." Morrison's eyes narrowed. "That's it? No advanced tactical training? No crisis management courses?" "No, sir." The Admiral leaned back, his gaze never leaving her face. "Then explain to me how a private with 6 months' experience coordinated a perfect lockdown response." Jessica's throat tightened. The answer was simple, but she doubted he'd understand. "My father taught me that discipline isn't about rank, sir. It's about doing what's right when everything's falling apart." Admiral Morrison's eyes sharpened at Jessica's words. "Your father?" "Chief Petty Officer Michael Thompson, sir. Navy SEAL, killed in Afghanistan 3 years ago." The office fell silent. Morrison's expression shifted. recognition flickering across his weathered features. He leaned forward, studying Jessica with new intensity. "Thompson," he repeated slowly. "Chief Michael Thompson, Team 5. Jessica's pulse quickened. "You knew him, sir?" "I briefed his team before their final mission." Morrison's voice carried the weight of memory. "Your father was legendary, the kind of SEAL who made impossible things look routine." Jessica's hand moved unconsciously to her collar, feeling the outline of her father's dog tags beneath her uniform. She'd worn them every day since his funeral, drawing strength from their familiar weight. "He gave you something, didn't he?" Morrison asked quietly. Jessica hesitated, then slowly reached beneath her collar. The chain caught the office light as she pulled out 2 worn dog tags, their surface dulled by years of handling. The metal was scratched and faded, but the engraving remained clear. "Thompson, Michael J. CPO, SEAL Team 5. Morrison's expression softened. "He told you to wear them." "His last letter," Jessica whispered. "He said they'd remind me that honor isn't inherited. It's earned, one decision at a time." The Admiral nodded slowly. "Michael Thompson saved 17 lives in that final mission. Held off insurgents for 40 minutes while his team evacuated wounded. These tags were with him when he made that choice." Jessica's eyes burned, but she blinked back the tears. Her father had never told her the details of his deployments, never shared the weight he carried. She'd learned about his heroism from official notifications and whispered conversations between his SEAL brothers at the funeral. "He wrote something else," Jessica continued, her voice steady despite the emotion. "He said the hardest battles aren't fought with weapons. They're fought with character when no one's watching." Morrison leaned back, studying the young woman before him. "And that's why you wore them to the gate every day." "Yes, sir. Every ID I checked, every decision I made, I asked myself what he would do, how he would handle the responsibility. The day of the lockdown?" Jessica met his gaze directly. "I felt them against my chest when the shooting started. Reminded me that panic is a choice. Discipline is also a choice." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, processing what he'd learned. Finally, he spoke. "Private Thompson, I'm assigning you to special detail. You'll work directly with my staff on security protocol development." Jessica's eyes widened. "Sir, your father's discipline lives in you. But more than that, you've proven you can make the right decisions under pressure. That's not something we can teach. It's something we recognize and develop. Thank you, sir." Morrison stood, moving to his office window overlooking Pearl Harbor. "Don't thank me yet. This assignment will put a target on your back. Senior staff who've been here decades will resent a private being given this opportunity. They'll watch for any mistake, any sign of weakness." Jessica straightened. "I understand, sir." "Do you?" Morrison turned back to face her. "Your father fought insurgents. You'll be fighting prejudice, resentment, and 20 years of military tradition that says privates don't make command decisions." Jessica's hand touched her father's dog tags once more. "Then I'll fight the same way he did, sir. One decision at a time." The Admiral's stern expression cracked slightly, revealing something that might have been pride. "Report to Building 7 tomorrow at 600. And Thompson?" "Yes, sir." "Wear those tags with honor. Your father would be proud." That evening, alone in her quarters, Jessica held her father's letter, the last communication she'd ever received from him. The paper was worn from countless readings, creased along the fold lines, stained with tears she'd shed in private moments. "Jessica, if you're reading this, then my mission didn't end the way I planned." "Don't cry for me, sweetheart. Cry for the world that makes missions like this necessary. I'm writing this in a bunker in Afghanistan, listening to gunfire in the distance, and thinking about the day you raised your hand to enlist. You asked me why I chose the SEALs. I never gave you a complete answer because some truths are too heavy for young shoulders. But now, facing what might be my final operation, I want you to understand the weight you've chosen to carry. In 2018, my team was tasked with rescuing a captured pilot behind enemy lines. Intel suggested light resistance, quick extraction. But intelligence is often wrong, and hope is sometimes a luxury we can't afford. We inserted at midnight, 6 SEALs against an entire insurgent camp. The pilot was there, barely alive, tortured for information he'd refused to give. But rescuing him meant fighting our way through 50 armed fighters. My teammates, Rodriguez, Chen, Williams, Patel, and Jackson, they were the finest warriors I've ever served with, brothers in every sense except blood. We'd trained together, bled together, saved each other's lives more times than I could count. The extraction went wrong. Our helicopter took RPG fire and crashed half a mile from the LZ. Rodriguez died instantly. Chen and Williams were pinned down by sniper fire. Patel took shrapnel to the chest. Jackson was carrying the pilot, unconscious but alive. I had a choice. Stay and fight, likely dying with my team, but ensuring the pilot's rescue. Or retreat and live, abandoning everyone who'd trusted me to bring them home. The decision took 3 seconds. I told Jackson to take the pilot and go. Then I turned back toward the gunfire. For 40 minutes I held that position. Every round I fired bought Jackson more time, more distance. When my ammunition ran low, I used grenades. When the grenades were gone, I used my sidearm. When that jammed, I used my knife. Chen died calling for his mother. Williams bled out holding a picture of his newborn daughter. Patel lasted longest, whispering prayers in Hindi until the words faded to silence. I couldn't save them. But I could honor their sacrifice by ensuring the pilot survived. Sometimes that's all we can do. Choose what we'll die for and make that choice count. The rescue team found me unconscious, surrounded by empty magazines and 17 dead insurgents. The pilot lived. Jackson made it to the LZ. My teammates came home in flag-draped coffins. I'm telling you this because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to do what's right when everything inside you screams to run. The dog tags I'm sending you belong to Chen. He would have wanted them to continue serving. If you wear them, remember they represent more than my service. They represent Rodriguez's sacrifice, Williams's daughter who'll grow up without her father, Patel's final prayers, and Chen's mother who'll never see her son again. Honor isn't inherited, Jessica. It's earned through choices made in impossible moments. When your moment comes, and it will come, ask yourself what these tags represent. Then make the choice that honors everyone who came before. Stand tall. Choose sacrifice over safety. Protect those who can't protect themselves. I love you always, Dad. Jessica folded the letter carefully, her hands trembling. Her father's final mission had taken place just 3 weeks before the lockdown at Pearl Harbor. His death had motivated her enlistment, but his words had guided her response when chaos erupted. She understood now why Admiral Morrison's eyes had changed when he saw the dog tags. They weren't just her father's legacy, they were Chen's, and through them, the legacy of every warrior who'd chosen sacrifice over survival. Building 7 stood apart from Pearl Harbor's main complex, unmarked and windowless, humming with the subtle energy of classified operations. Jessica approached at precisely 0600. Her father's dog tags a familiar weight beneath her pressed uniform. The guard at the entrance studied her orders with raised eyebrows. "Private Thompson?" "Yes, petty officer." He shook his head slightly. "Never seen a private clear for this building. Admiral's orders, I guess." Inside, the atmosphere was electric with purpose. Senior staff moved with calculated precision through narrow corridors lined with digital displays showing global naval positions. Jessica felt the weight of scrutiny as conversations paused when she passed. Commander Sarah Walsh intercepted her halfway down the main hallway. 20 years of naval intelligence had carved sharp lines around Walsh's eyes, and those eyes studied Jessica with undisguised skepticism. "You're Thompson." "Yes, ma'am." "I've read your file. 6 months at Pearl Harbor. 0 advanced training. 0 deployment experience." Walsh's voice carried the edge of someone unaccustomed to being questioned. "Explain to me why you're in my building." Jessica kept her spine straight. "Admiral Morrison assigned me, ma'am." "I know what Morrison ordered. I'm asking why you think you belong here." The challenge hung in the air between them. Jessica felt the familiar weight of her father's dog tags and remembered his words about choices made in impossible moments. "Because someone needs to ask the questions that rank prevents others from asking, ma'am." Walsh's eyebrows rose. Elaborate. During the lockdown, senior staff focused on protocol and procedure. I focused on preventing casualties. Different perspectives led to different priorities. You're suggesting our experience is a liability? Jessica met Walsh's gaze directly. I'm suggesting that fresh eyes sometimes see solutions that experienced ones miss, ma'am. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Walsh's expression shifted, not to approval, but to grudging interest. Follow me. The operations center buzzed with controlled energy. Banks of monitors displayed real-time intelligence from across the Pacific Theater. Analysts hunched over workstations, their conversations conducted in the clipped shorthand of professionals who measured success in lives saved and failures in body counts. Walsh led Jessica to a workstation equipped with multiple screens and a secure terminal. Your assignment is Threat Assessment Review. Every security protocol that crosses this desk gets your evaluation. Jessica scanned the documents already waiting for her attention. Port security procedures, vehicle inspection protocols, personnel verification systems, the bureaucratic foundation upon which Pearl Harbor's safety rested. Ma'am, what specifically am I looking for? Gaps, assumptions, points of failure that 19 years of naval tradition might have overlooked. Walsh's tone carried reluctant respect. You handled the lockdown by ignoring established hierarchy and making decisions based on immediate tactical needs. Apply that same thinking to these protocols. The first document Jessica reviewed was a vehicle inspection checklist. 47 items covering everything from engine compartments to trunk searches. Standard procedure, refined through decades of implementation. But as Jessica studied the checklist, she noticed something troubling. The inspection sequence moved from front to back, predictable and routine. An observant adversary could time their approach based on the inspector's position. She made a note. Recommend randomizing inspection sequence to prevent timing exploitation. The second document outlined personnel verification procedures for base visitors. Again, the process followed a rigid pattern: ID check, background verification, escort assignment, efficient but predictable. Another note. Suggest implementing random secondary verification to detect sophisticated false credentials. Commander Walsh appeared at Jessica's shoulder, reading her annotations. Interesting observations. Most reviews focus on compliance. You're focusing on exploitation. My father taught me to think like the enemy, ma'am. If I wanted to breach Pearl Harbor's security, how would I do it? Walsh nodded slowly. Keep that mindset. Your next assignment will test it properly. 3 weeks into her assignment, Jessica had identified 17 potential security vulnerabilities across Pearl Harbor's protocols. Her reports landed on the desks of senior staff who'd spent decades perfecting those same procedures. The resistance came swiftly and decisively. Captain Morrison, no relation to the Admiral, cornered her outside the mess hall on a Tuesday morning. 28 years of naval service had given him the confidence of a man unaccustomed to having his expertise questioned. Private Thompson, his voice carried barely controlled irritation. Your recommendations are causing significant disruption to established procedures. Jessica straightened. Yes, sir. I identified potential vulnerabilities that could... You identified theoretical problems with systems that have protected this base for 2 decades without a single successful breach. Morrison stepped closer, his presence intimidating. Who exactly do you think you are? The question hung heavy in the humid Hawaiian air. Around them, junior sailors slowed their pace, sensing confrontation. Jessica felt the familiar weight of her father's dog tags and remembered Commander Walsh's words about thinking like the enemy. I'm someone asking questions that need to be asked, sir. Morrison's eyes flashed. You're a private with 6 months' experience second-guessing officers who've served since before you were born. Yes, sir, because sometimes experience creates blind spots that fresh perspectives can identify. Blind spots? Morrison's voice rose slightly. Private. I've protected this base through terrorist threats, foreign intelligence operations, and cyber attacks you can't even imagine. My protocols have prevented breaches that would have compromised national security. Jessica nodded respectfully. Your protocols are excellent, sir. I'm not questioning their effectiveness. I'm asking how they might be improved. Improved by a child who's never deployed, never faced real threats, never made decisions with actual lives at stake. The words stung because they contained truth. Jessica had never deployed. She'd never faced combat. Her most serious confrontation had been the base lockdown, and even that had lasted only minutes. But she'd studied every classified briefing that crossed her desk. She'd analyzed threat assessments from naval intelligence. She'd learned to think like an adversary planning an attack on the world's most strategic naval installation. You're right, sir. I lack deployment experience. But I've studied every successful attack on U.S. military installations in the past decade. 90% exploited routine procedures that defenders considered unbreachable. Morrison's expression hardened. And you think Pearl Harbor is vulnerable to the same exploitation? I think every installation is vulnerable when defenders stop questioning their own assumptions, sir. The confrontation attracted attention from passing personnel. Jessica felt their stares, heard whispered conversations analyzing her audacity in challenging a senior officer. Some faces showed support. Others displayed disapproval. Commander Walsh appeared at Jessica's elbow, her timing impeccable. "Captain Morrison, is there a problem?" Morrison turned his attention to Walsh, his irritation undiminished. "Commander, your private is recommending changes to security protocols that have protected this base for decades." "I'm aware of her recommendations. Admiral Morrison has reviewed them personally." "And?" Walsh's expression remained neutral. "He's implementing 6 of her suggestions immediately." Morrison's face flushed. 6 changes to protocols I developed personally?" "Yes, sir." "The Admiral believes fresh perspective enhances security rather than compromising it." Jessica watched the exchange in silence, understanding that her position in Building 7 had created friction extending far beyond her recommendations. She represented something unsettling to the established order, evidence that rank and experience didn't guarantee superior insight. Morrison studied Jessica with narrowed eyes. "Private Thompson, your father was a hero. Don't mistake his legacy for your own expertise." The words hit harder than intended. Jessica's hand moved unconsciously to her father's dog tags, feeling their weight beneath her uniform. "My father taught me that heroism isn't inherited, sir. It's earned through service. I'm trying to earn mine." Morrison turned and walked away, leaving Jessica standing with Commander Walsh and a growing crowd of observers. The test came without warning on a Thursday afternoon when Admiral Morrison's voice crackled through Building 7's intercom system. "All personnel to stations, this is not a drill." Jessica rushed to her workstation as alarms echoed through the complex. Her screens immediately filled with incoming intelligence. A foreign intelligence operative had been detected attempting to infiltrate Pearl Harbor's secure communications network. Commander Walsh appeared at her shoulder. "Thompson, the intrusion attempt is targeting our vehicle inspection protocols, specifically the timing vulnerabilities you identified 3 weeks ago." Jessica's pulse quickened. Her report had warned that predictable inspection sequences could be exploited by observant adversaries. Now, someone was doing exactly that. "Ma'am, they're using our routine to mask their approach timing. They know exactly when guards will be focused on engine compartments versus trunk searches." Walsh nodded grimly. "Can you counter it?" Jessica's fingers flew across her keyboard, accessing the randomized inspection protocols she'd designed but never implemented. "If we switch to random sequence inspection immediately, their timing advantage disappears." "Do it!" Jessica transmitted the new protocols to gate security, her heart hammering as she watched live feeds from Pearl Harbor's main entrance. The operative's vehicle approached the checkpoint, their timing calculated for maximum concealment during predictable inspection routines. But the guards now followed Jessica's randomized sequence. The operative's carefully planned approach became meaningless, as inspectors searched trunk first, then engine, then passenger compartment in unpredictable order. The concealed surveillance equipment was discovered in the trunk, equipment that would have remained hidden under the original inspection sequence. Admiral Morrison's voice filled the operations center 20 minutes later. "Threat neutralized, all clear." Commander Walsh turned to Jessica, her expression transformed. "Your protocols just prevented a major intelligence breach." Word spread through Building 7 with characteristic military efficiency. The private who'd challenged established procedures had proven those challenges weren't just theoretical, they were prophetic. Captain Morrison appeared at Jessica's workstation an hour later, his face carrying an expression she'd never seen before. "Respect. Private Thompson," he said quietly. "I owe you an apology." Jessica stood at attention. "Sir, your recommendations weren't the arrogance of inexperience. They were the insight of someone thinking beyond our assumptions." He paused, studying her face. "I should have listened instead of defending. You were protecting protocols that had served the Navy well, sir." Morrison nodded slowly. "Yes, but protection sometimes requires change. Your father would be proud of how you've served." 2 days later, Admiral Morrison summoned Jessica to his office. She entered to find him standing with Commander Walsh and 3 other senior officers she didn't recognize. "Private Thompson," the Admiral began, "your service in Building 7 has demonstrated exceptional analytical capability and strategic thinking. Your identification of security vulnerabilities prevented what could have been a catastrophic intelligence breach." Jessica felt her father's dog tags warm against her chest. "Therefore, I'm recommending you for immediate promotion to Petty Officer 3rd Class, along with assignment to Naval Intelligence School for advanced training." Jessica's breath caught. "Sir, your father earned his reputation through courage under fire. You've earned yours through courage under scrutiny." Admiral Morrison smiled. Different battles, same character. As Jessica left the Admiral's office, she touched her father's dog tags one final time. His letter had promised that her moment would come, a moment requiring her to choose between safety and sacrifice. She'd made that choice not through heroic action, but through quiet persistence, through questioning assumptions and challenging traditions respectfully but firmly. Walking across Pearl Harbor as the sun set over the Pacific, Jessica understood finally what her father had meant about honor being earned one decision at a time. To everyone who typed respect and shared where you're watching from, thank you for standing with our heroes. Subscribe for more stories like this. See you in the next one.